about myself. But before that, very quickly, let me welcome you again for joining this particular webinar on how GenAI can benefit in terms of project risk management. My name is Nikhil Mudgi, and yes, I'm really thrilled to have all of you here in terms of understanding what GenAI could be and how it is going to drive the project management aspects of it. So the agenda for today, to begin with, we'll understand in brief about what is a project and how it could be different from a BAU. We'll also get a small insight about what is GenAI, and finally, we'll understand what could be the benefits we are going to achieve as part of the GenAI's contribution in terms of the project risk. And finally, we will end. We will not forget. Let's not forget that we'll do a small practical demo on ChatGPT. So that's going to give you some kind of idea in terms of how GenAI in terms of project risk management is going to be quite beneficial for you. All right, so many of you might be aware of, you might be working on projects, or you might have heard this particular term. If you're working on projects, I'm sure you know that, hey, there are hundreds and hundreds of definitions. But yes, I'll use the very common definition of the project, which is a temporary endeavor, which is undertaken to create a unique product or a service or a result, right? That could be, let's say, for example, you want to develop a new software application, or you want to plan for a vacation, you want to construct a bridge or a building, you want to plan and execute a marketing campaign, right? You want to organize a conference or an event. All of these things can definitely be handled as a project, right? But what are the key characteristics of a project, right? So projects are very temporary in nature. Why do we call it as a temporary? We know that it has a start date, it has an end date, right? So we'll talk about how it is different in when compared to the BAU in the next slide. But yes, they're very temporary in nature, for which the team is also the team for that particular project is also be temporary as well. It is unique, right? Projects are going to deliver some unique results, right? So that uniqueness could be, you might have not automated something before, but you're planning to do it now. You have not implemented sustainability previously, but now you're trying to implement it today, right? So some unique business result, that's where the project comes in. It is helping us to achieve those specific objectives. Objectives could be in terms of enhancing the customer satisfaction or shopping from anywhere you want, right? So we have those clear goals and deliverables that must be achieved as part of the projects. And we have the boundaries as well. What we should do, what we should not do. That's inclusions, exclusions are all very clearly defined. So which means we have very well-defined scope as well. Now, without people, time, money, materials, equipments, no projects can run, irrespective of the industry you're part of, right? No projects can run. So we need some resources to complete some work. And we have good interdependencies as well, right? A lot of project activities are pretty much interconnected and dependent. And let's not forget, there is always a degree of uncertainty as part of the project, right? Always, right? So as a project manager, either you might be a budding project manager, you might be a well-versed project manager as well. It is very important for us to understand what is a project and what are the key characteristics. And this is where it's really going to be quite beneficial in terms of succeeding as well. Now, how different is a project when compared to your BAU? Right, so in terms of the purpose of the project, we already got to know about it, right? So we are trying to create a unique product or a service or a result. But BAU is more in terms of ongoing operations and the services. In terms of the duration, again, since we have a start date end date, right? And once we achieve those particular result or the product or the service, we know that the project team is also going to be dissolved, right? So that's the reason duration is quite temporary. Could be 1 year, could be 2 years, could be 3 years as well. But BAU is quite ongoing and repetitive in nature. The scope which we are trying to achieve, BAU has a very broad and evolving scope, but when it comes to the project, we got to know previously that it has a very clearly defined and limited scope as well. In terms of the risk factors, and I always keep on asking this particular question, where do you see more risk? Be it agile, I mean, is it agile or is it waterfall? We all know that, right? Projects can be handled in terms of both agile as well as the waterfall. The major difference between the two, waterfall is where the value realization happens only after the completion of all the activities within that particular duration, right? So that's what we call it as waterfall. But agile, you break down the larger work into smaller manageable chunks, and we try to bring in that early value realization. Now, this is where I always keep on asking this question. Where do you have the risk more? Is it agile? Is it waterfall? Or is it good for me to say that agile has no risk? Definitely no. We cannot say that, right? Each and everything has its own risk. But yes, in terms of project management, the risks are quite higher in nature because till the end of the project, we are not sure if we are going to achieve the required objectives or not, or if we are going to stay within the agreed timelines and all those particular things. So some bit of uncertainties will always be there in terms of the project. But in terms of BAU, since we have a very well-established processes, risks are definitely there, but when compared to the project management, it would be a bit lower. And project is a means by which we introduce some business changes. No wonder there at all. But those business changes must be unique in nature, right? So but in terms of BAU, the change management or the changes what we do, they are mostly to ensure that the stability and consistency will always be there. Right. So if I have to consider one simple example in terms of the differentiation between a project and a BAU, think about a software engineer developing a new mobile application, right? So this is a one-time activity where the goal is to develop a mobile application, whatsoever the mobile application it could be a Zoom, could be any other things as well. So that is the goal what we need to achieve. For that, we have a dedicated team and we have a defined timeline as well. But when it comes to the BAU, this is where we provide the customer support for the mobile app which we might have had created. So it's an ongoing process where probably in this particular scenario, I would say that the main focus will be on maintaining the customer satisfaction and resolving those particular issues, right? So again, all these particular terms looks good, but it's up to the organizations to understand or to recognize what are the uniqueness or what are the unique characteristics, and later on they can tailor the approaches to ensure that project objectives are going to be quite efficient, and operations are also being quite efficient as well. So this is a difference between the project and the BAU. BAU is nothing but business as usual. Now, many of you who are playing the roles of the project manager, you might realize that hey, it's not just one role called as a project manager I am donning the hat off. As a project manager, I know I put it in a very holistic manner here. I put it in a very holistic manner, right? Because you are playing the role of a communication manager, you're playing the role of a risk manager, you're playing the role of a conflict manager, whatsoever the roles it could be, right? So, but in general, I would say that as a project manager, you need to be a good leader. not just a leader. I mean, you want to call yourself as a true leader or a servant leader, absolutely your call. Because when you lead the teams, you inspire, you motivate them, right? You communicate the project vision, the goals, the expectations to all stakeholders. You are involved in terms of making some uh, very informed and timely decisions. And as a leader, let's not forget, we have to keep on mediating. We have to resolve those particular conflicts. It could be amongst the team members or between the different stakeholders as well. Now, as a good project manager, you need to plan things as well. So that's the reason they are very good planners. They need to don the hat of planning as well. You need to organize, you need to strategize, you need to define the scope, right? So what stays within and what stays outside the boundaries, and we have to schedule the projects and monitor them accordingly as well. So a project manager is a very good coordinator as well, right? So they assign the resources. Again, when we talk about resources, they could be the people, equipment, or any kind of materials. They need to delegate the task. They need to collaborate to ensure that all the stakeholders are working together to achieve some common objectives. And we have to keep on negotiating with the vendors or the suppliers or any other stakeholders as well. So the project manager must also play the role of monitoring and controllers as well. You need to track, you need to analyze, you need to ensure that the quality factors are always being taken into considerations. And let's not forget about identification, assessing, and mitigating the risk throughout the project lifecycle. The project managers are very good problem solvers. They must be very good problem solvers, right? So they should be able to identify and resolve the issues that might arise during the course of the project, right? They need to manage the changes as well. Whatever the project change request, changes to the scope, changes to the timeline, changes to the budget, they may have to evaluate and implement those particular changes. And wherever it is needed, they will have to come up with some creative solutions to overcome whatsoever the challenges and later on improve the project outcomes as well. So probably the innovative is where GenAI can definitely be considered as a very good stakeholder for that. The project manager must also be a very good advocate. They have to play the role of an advocate as well, because they need to manage the relationship with the stakeholders. They need to keep the stakeholders informed. They need to address the concerns of the stakeholders. And in today's world, I don't understand. I'm not sure if you are going to accept or not, but I have realized that considering how GenAI has been evolving, even GenAI has become a very important stakeholder in today's world. It has become a very, very important stakeholder. And in addition to all of these particular things, we know that project manager is not a static role, right? It is quite dynamic, right? So they have to be continuous learners, right? They need to focus in terms of continual improvement. They need to focus more in terms of knowledge sharing, right? So this is where a successful project manager needs to ensure that whatever the transitions is happening throughout the project life cycle, that should be done in a very seamless manner. So these could be a very diversified, the holistic roles I might have had taken into considerations, but eventually they need to consider these particular diverse roles and lead their teams to achieve whatsoever the success which is required for the project and add value for the organization. So this is a small bit of introduction about the project manager, but what is a risk? Right. Again, this is one term which since we are emphasizing a bit more in terms of risk management as part of the projects, that's the reason we'll talk a little bit more about the risk. Now, risk is a possible event, right? That event or any kind of circumstances that is occurring might have some kind of impact. That impact can be positive or it could be negative in terms of achieving some financial objectives. Not financial, but in terms of achieving the objectives, right? So as part of the project, no wonder we do have the financial risk. We have the environmental risk. Financial risk could be more in terms of the market fluctuations, investment decisions, or economic downtimes or downturns, right? In terms of environmental, whatever the project we are doing today, no, we need to think about the future, right? We need to think about the future as well. So that's where sustainability also comes into picture, right? So the environmental risk could be like how, if at all the project does any potential harm to the environment from whatsoever the activities or natural disasters is going to happen, right? So that is where the risk factors comes in. That is where the risk factors comes in, right? So if you look into this particular statement of risk, risk is the uncertainty of outcome. Could be positive, could be negative, right? In terms of whatever the actions or the events, right? What does this uncertainty means? Uncertainty is nothing but there's always a chance that events won't happen as expected. Future is uncertain. Risk exists because the future is uncertain. It will have that potential impact, can have positive, can have negative impact as well. Negative impacts includes, let's say, if there is any kind of injury or a damage or in terms of loss. Positive ones could be more in terms of opportunities for improvements or more in terms of gain. Risk, and if you see the second definition as well, we have the key term called as probability. Every risk has a likelihood of occurring from very low to very high. This probability might have to be assessed based on some historical data, expert judgments, or any kind of statistical models as well. We need to measure and manage those particular risks as well, right? So we need to quantify those particular risks to determine what is the probability, what is the impact of the risk. That's really going to help us in terms of making better decisions, right? So as a project manager, managing all these particular factors, when all these aspects of risk could be time consuming. It could be time consuming, right? So probably I'm very eager to share one point, but I'll still wait for it because theoretical part, let's complete it so that we can invest a little bit of time in terms of working on ChatGPT. So down the line, as a project manager, it could be quite beneficial for you. So what are the key activities of the project risk management? Yes, in a very generic manner, you say that as part of the project risk, we have to plan the risk, right? So you have to come up with a risk management planning. If you already have a risk management strategy in place or approach in place, well and fine. If not, yes, I have been involved in terms of establishing a good risk management plan where we had to define what is the process, what are the roles, the responsibilities, what could be the different tools and techniques we can use in terms of managing the project risk. The risk management planning must also include understanding the risk appetite. Now, what is risk appetite? The level of risk the organization or the stakeholders are willing to accept. That's where, or the project is willing to accept, right? So that's where we call it as a risk appetite. And for those particular appetites, we have to set certain acceptable limits for risk exposure and defining criteria whether should we take certain actions or not. That's where the risk thresholds comes in. Now, once you have a good planning in terms of how you need to manage those particular risks and all, then comes in the identification. Right? We need to identify if the risk is a positive or if the risk is negative, if it's a long-term risk, if it's a short-term risk. Right? So again, there could be various ways in terms of how you might identify the risk. Some of the very common ones, you probably would brainstorm with some diverse stakeholder groups or certain experts as well. So the expert judgment comes in picture. So there could be different checklists, the templates which you might have had created based on the industries or based on the past projects as well. You may wish to do some kind of SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis is where you examine internal strengths and weakness and external opportunities and threats. That's also going to help you in terms of potentially identifying the risk. And you might also do the root cause analysis as well. What are the underlying causes of those particular risks? Because that's really going to help you to come up with some good mitigation strategies. Then probably you need to analyze the risk. Analyzing the risk can happen in terms of both qualitative as well as the quantitative. Now, qualitative risk analysis might include categorizing the risk into, let's say, technical risk, financial risk, environmental risk, social risk, right? So what is the probability and impact? How urgent it is, right? What is the data quality? In terms of quantitative, you wish to do some sensitivity analysis. You wish to do some expected monetary value analysis as well to understand what is the financial impact of the risk, right? And let's not forget about the Monte Carlo simulations as well to estimate what is the probability of different outcomes based on whatever the values for each and every variables we have. So in this manner, you can analyze the risk. Then comes in the risk planning, right? What are the responses you wish to plan? If it's a negative, probably you wish to avoid it, or you wish to come up with some contingencies or fallback, or you wish to share it, or you wish to transfer it. But if it's a positive, you will deny it, you will accept it, you will exploit it, you will explore it as well. So different responses we have in terms of planning for those particular risks as well. And finally, let's not forget about monitoring and control. I would also include communication as well as part of the risk. Communication is a all-time activity. Let's not forget that. So monitoring and control includes tracking the risk, then implementing the risk responses. Then you wish to reassess the status of the risk as well. You want to evaluate the effectiveness of the risk responses, right? So these could be the holistical activities which you might be performing as part of the project risk management. In fact, these terms are very much good or very much universal, be it projects, be it whatsoever the ecosystem you're part of. Everywhere these key activities of the risk management you can definitely perform, right? Probably you're still thinking, all these things I'm doing it day in and day out, but how GenAI is going to help us, right? That's what all of you might be thinking. But before I move ahead into it, right? Very quickly, let's understand what is GenAI. GenAI, generative AI, generative artificial intelligence, right? It is a branch of your artificial intelligence itself, but this GenAI focuses more in terms of creating certain new contents. It could be text, could be images, could be music, or it could be even the codes as well, right? So some of the examples, what are some of the examples? All of you use ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, day in and day out. Maybe just to write certain emails, just to summarize whatever you have done, right? But I mean, or just to create certain images or write poems and all. All these things are good. No wonder. No wonder there at all. But how many of us have really exploited the aspects of GenAI when it comes to our actual application? When it comes to our actual application, how many of us have really exploited it? If you're exploited it, well and fine. If not, in the next few minutes, you will definitely gain some insights in terms of that. So, how GenAI works, right? First and foremost thing, um, this is where I would tell you, whatever the automation you have been doing, whatever the automation you have been doing, right? Those automations are based on certain rules and the workflows which are predefined in nature, right? Because the data what you have is quite structured in nature. You're automating, let's say, processing of the invoices. You're automating some expense reports. You're automating sending, some reminder emails. You're automating some progress reports based on certain predefined templates and all, right? So if you have some structured data, your existing automation will definitely work like a charm. But GenAI is not limited to that. GenAI is not just in terms of your traditional automation, because if you want to focus in terms of traditional automation, you can definitely use RPA, robotic process automation there. Why do you want GenAI there? Right. So that is the technology. The technology used for your regular automation is more of an RPA, robotic process automation. But with GenAI, the technology what we use is large language models, the neural networks. I'm not going to go in depth because we have to complete this entire webinar in 1 hour. All right, so LLM, large language models. So in fact, today, a lot of organizations, they've started developing their small language models as well. SLMs also, they've started defining it. So those LLMs are being designed to handle any kind of complex or unstructured data. It'll learn, it'll adapt to changing situations, and the data what we get is more flexible and much better automation there, right? So whatever the automations we are doing via GenAI is much more advanced, right? So now, how GenAI can help us in terms of project management? Yes, you can analyze the project documents to identify, okay, based on the previous projects or similar projects, what are the potential risks you have, or what are the potential mitigation strategies, right? And if generate the project summary, make certain presentations. So these GenAIs are being designed in such a manner that you can handle, we can make very well informed decisions as well. So that's how, through the means of training, through the means of learning, through the means of refinement, right? So we keep on improving the Gen AI. So I'm not going in depth about what is Gen AI, but the last theoretical part, then we will move on to ChatGPT. Okay. What are the traditional challenges you have in terms of risk management today, and how GenAI can really help us? Now, traditional risk management, yes, we have limited data and insights. We are trying to ask some people, some of our stakeholders. Those stakeholders will come and say, hey, I don't have time, refer to the knowledge articles, or refer to the case studies, white papers, what we have written, right? Though historical data is important, expert opinion is important, but not every time it could be reliable. And most importantly, the data is scattered across multiple systems, right? So as a project manager today, if I have to make some holistical, if I have to come up with some holistical view of what are the potential risks we have, it is time consuming and it is very difficult as well. But GenAI can simplify it. So GenAI can simplify it, right? So it can analyze good amount of data from various sources, right? Could be news articles, could be industry reports, could be historical data, could be social medias as well. Right? So whatever the risk we might have had overlooked by traditional methods, GenAI can definitely help us in terms of augmenting it. You know, traditional methods probably it's saying reactive is quite dicey, but still let's call it as a reactive approach because most of the organizations they are focusing on responding to the risk after it happens rather than being proactive. But that proactiveness is wonderfully addressed as part of GenAI. We'll see that. We'll see that. It is time consuming and resource intensive as well, that is traditional method, right? As we discussed in the first point, limited data and insights, ask this person, ask that person. All these things have been very quite, have been very challenging, right? So it needs good investment in terms of the effort from the project teams. And GenAI can automate all of these particular tasks, so that project managers can focus more in terms of strategic decision making and problem solving and limited communication and collaborations as well. Because so many data sources, so many different tools, right? Different documents, different systems. That is definitely kill all the communication, the effectiveness of the communication and collaboration. Now, since GenAI has been quite centralized, it can centralize the risk information. We can foster a good collaborative approach to facilitate real-time communications as well. Right. So if I have to give some of the examples where these GenAI factors have been widely used. So traditionally, let's think about the construction industry, construction project. Hey, will it rain today? Will it not rain today? We'll say, oh, last year, this time it did rain. Last year, this time it did rain. That's what we keep on thinking, right? But GenAI is not like that. Though it will analyze the last year's data, but it will also analyze, okay, what is the current situation all about? Last year to this year, 365 days, so many changes might have happened, right? So GenAI can analyze all the data, the supply chain information, the market trends, and provide a much accurate predictions about the risk. And it can also suggest some proactive mitigation strategies. In terms of cybersecurity, how much of data we have today, right? So GenAI, if we use GenAI, it can help us in terms of identifying the patterns of what could be the potential breaches. Thereby, we can be very proactive into the threat mitigation. In terms of cloud migration, right? So you can identify what are the potential risks and optimize the transition process to it, and thereby you're going to get that seamless experience. If I go into the banking industry, you think about fraud detection. Yes, Bank of America, most of the major banks, they've started utilizing it. They can analyze the data transactions, customer behavior patterns to detect any kind of anomalies that might indicate fraudulent activities as well. And you go into the medical industry, clinical trials. GenAI can analyze the patient data, historical trials outcomes, what are the different external factors, to predict if there is any potential risk in clinical trials, enhancing that. Thereby we are going to improve that patient safety and optimize the trial design. So this is how, if the project managers can leverage GenAI, it can definitely be effective, efficient, and manage the risk in a better manner, right? So this is all these things for the theoretical part. Now let's go into the practical part in terms of how you can play around with GenAI platforms. You can use any GenAI platforms, okay? But I'm going to use ChatGPT here. If you want to use any GenAI project management tools like ClickUp or Asana, Trello, they're all of them are still budding up. Monday.com and all. All these tools are very good in terms of uh, good Gen AI project management softwares. But I'm using Chat GPT as an example to work on this particular demo what we have taken into consideration. Right, so team, this is a fictional scenario which I have taken it. Okay, the fictional scenario, very quickly, let's go through it. The EcoChic Apparel is a sustainable fashion brand. They are embarking on a project to create a new e-commerce platform called ShopSmart. The goal is to expand their online presence, increase the sales, and provide an intuitive and visually appealing online store that aligns with their commitment to sustainability. The project scope includes platform development, product catalog creation, user experience design, marketing and SEO implementation, and sustainability integrations as well. Key objectives are to launch within 6 months, stay within $150, $100 budget, achieve high functionality and user satisfaction, increase online sales by 30% in the first year. Right, so this is the project scenario what I have. The team, I'll stop sharing the screen because I'm going to bring up another window of mine where we have the Chat GPT. Okay, there you go. I hope all of you are able to see my Chat GPT screen. Can you quickly confirm, please? Quick confirmation?
Yes.
Yes. Lovely, lovely, lovely. So team, now, if you have already integrated your ChatGPT, integrated your systems with ChatGPT, yes, you will be having good amount of data. Now, imagine that I have no data at all. So which means what I'm doing is I'm just copy pasting. I have it on my second screen. So this is where I'm copy pasting everything. Okay. Now, we'll do certain activities, right? We'll work on certain prompts. So one important thing about using these GenAI platforms is you have to be very creative and you have to know how to write a good prompt. So how to write a good prompt, right? So that is very important. Now, in terms of risk, if I have to keep on talking about it, I would need a good, 2 hours, 3 hours to only for the risk management. Right? So, but let's understand. Okay. Okay. So I have to paste it on Word. All right. Sorry, on this thing. Now, team, this is scenario which I have. Now I'm adding a prompt, right? So this is I'm adding a prompt. What is the prompt? Now, based on the current industry trends and consumer expectations, what are the potential risks associated with developing and launching a sustainable e-commerce platform like ShopMart? As a project manager, you might have had identified some kind of threats, right? You might have. Certain times you might have had missed out on certain things as well. But let's see what is the response which ChatGPT gives. Right. So if you have to keep on doing, again, you'll brainstorm, you'll talk to your different stakeholders, you'll talk to your senior project members, you'll go through the previous project documents as well. And based on all of those particular things, it's going to take a good few hours of time. It might. You enter everything into the Chat GPT and write a simple prompt, right? So we have got some 9 risk here, right? So these are the potential threats or what developing and launching. And here are the key risks to consider, right? So the technical challenges, I have platform development delays, integration issues, security vulnerabilities, budget constraints, Cost overruns, again, can lead to budget. Sustainability features, user experience and satisfaction, usability issues, performance scalability, market and consumer expectations. Again, we have some things, SEO and marketing challenges, sustainable integration, regulatory and compliance risk, customer support service, logistical challenges. Right. So these things looks to be very much like a threats or very much negative in nature. Right. So you can think about writing something positive as well. Right. So I'm going to ask, you know, if you want, again and again, you can copy paste the entire scenario, or only for my understanding, only for the sake of demo, I'm using this. Okay. I'm just writing the prompt. Analyze emerging trends. See, this is where I'm asking ChatGPT, to help me understand what could be the positive risk we might be having as part of this particular project. Right. So, and let's see what are the response we are going to get here. Okay. We have good outputs which are generated. I'm not definitely call it as outcomes, because outcomes are the actual results. Now, ChatGPT data or the GenAI data, I would still consider them as an output itself, because down the line, you as a project manager, that human involvement is very much required to gauge all the ethicalness of ChatGPT or GenAI platforms. The ethics bias is always there as part of your GenAI platforms. So that's the reason GenAI is not a replacement for humans. That's my strong belief, and that's everybody's strong belief. It is really helping us to optimize and automate lots and lots of work. Right. So some of the positive risk what you're seeing: increased demand for transparency, rise of circular fashion. Right. What is the opportunity and how you're going to implement it? Preference for ethical brands, right? Opportunity and implementation. For each and every opportunity, we have the opportunity and implementation. We have what is that opportunity all about and how it can be implemented as well. Digital fashion and virtual try-ons, focus on minimalism and capsule wardrobes, enhanced consumer education, community building, and social impact as well. Right. So, team, in a very similar manner, you can use some prompts. You can focus on the target risk areas like technical risk, supply chain risk, marketing risk, branding risk, legal risk, operational risk, and anything else as well. Right. So, team, this is how you can identify the risk. Now, let's say, team, you are in a spot, you're getting confused. So that's where you think that, hey, let me use some Delphi technique. Let me use a Delphi technique. Now, those who know about Delphi technique, well and fine. If those who don't know about it, it's a very good technique where we can gather some expert opinions whenever you're dealing with some uncertain situations, right? So you can use Delphi technique. Now, this is where I'm going to use a Delphi technique to gather, some kind of response for whatever the challenges I have. And for that, team, I'm using this particular prompt. Now, if you see this, the previous two prompts what I've used has been very generic. Now, this is the prompt which I'm using, right? The prompt is, I'm saying, ChatGPT, you need to act yourself as a project manager, right? And I'm asking ChatGPT to ask as an expert, act as a persona. It's always nice if you can write your prompts in this particular manner. It's always nice. Later on, you can think about being creative as well, right? So act as a project manager, create questionnaires to gather the expert opinions on potential operational risk of potential cyber attacks and or data breaches, that could compromise ShopSmart's platforms, security, and customer data. So this is what the Delphi technique is. Now it will give us. I'll click on enter. Okay, and it will give us that particular response. We are getting some questionnaires, right? So okay, see, you see this, we are getting some kind of questionnaires, and these questionnaires we can send it to some group of experts, and we gather the responses from them. And as a project manager, uh, you can analyze and later on synthesize the data. And this is how GenAI platforms like ChatGPT or Gemini or Cloud or ClickUp, right? All of these particular platforms can help you in terms of optimizing your ways of working, right? I'm still getting 20 questions. If you want to limit, probably you can mention here, in this particular prompt, you can mention by saying that, okay, you can mention the prompt, give me 20 questions, give me 30 questions, give me 40 questions, give me 10 questions. The more specific you are, the better the responses you will be getting as part of your prompt, right? So again, time factor, I'm quickly going to add one more prompt, but you see that we have got some good prompts. Now I'm going to ask ChatGPT. Okay, now think about it. Okay, now I'm asking ChatGPT. Okay, think yourself as a cybersecurity expert, and using the previously generated questions, please respond. Again, whatever the questions we have asked, we are going to get as part of it, right? So again, probably you, as a project manager, when you're talking to cybersecurity experts, you might be getting, may not be just one response or two responses, you might be getting multiple responses. So you can upload those particular documents. If you have connected your systems to GenAI platforms, it can compare all the required documentations and help you to analyze and synthesize this particular reports, right? So again, so I'm getting all these particular responses. It's taking a little bit of time, but team, you see this, how, I mean, these are the true potential of your GenAI platforms, right? It's not limited only for you to create those particular images or or come up with any kind of music and all. It's not only for that, but team, this is how you can make use of the ChatGPT responses, right? And now I've got some good amount of data. I'm going to ask ChatGPT saying that, hey, analyze the responses and synthesize the data, synthesize the insights into summarized reports, highlighting key risk and identifying consensus. Because by the end of Delphi technique, we need to have that particular consensual decision making. Again, see, I've got a wonderful summary report as well. I'm getting wonderful summary reports. Right, so team, this is how you can make use of the GenAI platform, create a risk register, do that qualitative analysis for, I mean, you can come up with what if scenarios or Monte Carlo analysis, or create a risk summary profiles, by using all the elements of GenAI. Right, so again, very quickly, this is the last prompt what we have, but you see this, wonderful. Now this is where we are not replacing everything. Again, I'm emphasizing this particular point, right? So as a project manager, you will have to go through the entire thing and then see, right, how, I mean, if all these things are ethical in nature, or if it is not, how you can further tailor it. So this is where lots and lots of time has been optimized for you as a project manager. And now, as a project manager team, you can definitely you can definitely use these particular insights and come up with some better decision makings as well. Right. So team, uh, this is how, yes, I like this particular quote. I like this particular quote, especially we are talking about the Gen AI. So when it is obvious that the goals cannot be reached, these are the common challenges which we encounter as part of our projects, right? So don't adjust the goals, but adjust the action steps. Adjust the action steps. Use ChatGPT as your reference, and that's really going to be quite beneficial for you. So, team, this is about a small webinar on GenAI for project risk management, on how GenAI can definitely help us in terms of not just the risk management, but all the other activities as part of the project. I hope the insights, what we have discussed today, you will start using it. You could be, Mayuri said this at the very beginning. You could be no-wise project manager, or you are a very seasoned project manager as well. If you are trying to if you truly harness the benefits of GenAI, you can revolutionize the way how you identify, assess, mitigate. The risk is the topic which we are discussing. That's the reason I'm going to act as the risk. But yes, team, this is where I've completed all the topics.